Every ultimate experience Ireland has to offer is always within reach with a 182 BMW. The ultimate bowl of chowder, seasoned with Atlantic salt air, the ultimate swim spot, even the ultimate scenic shortcut that happily takes way, way longer. Experience the ultimate with a 24-hour test drive from your local BMW retailer, because owning your new BMW is always within reach. Visit bmw182.ie.
Blog Talk Radio.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space. And when you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly. And I hope that you are having the time of your life. But think twice. That's my only advice. Come on now, who do you think you are? Bless your soul. You really think you're in control? Well, I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. Just like me. My heroes had the heart to lose their lives out on a limb. And all I remember is thinking, I want to be like them. Ever since I was little, it looked like fun. If it's no coincidence, I've come. And I can die when I'm done. But maybe I'm crazy. Maybe you're crazy. Maybe we're crazy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If it's Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, then it must be time for your favorite all-time show, Off the Chain, and I'm your host, Yvonne Mason. I want to welcome each of you to the show tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going into our second year. And I know y'all say, this she's going to give us the spiel again. Yes, I am. And y'all are going to get sick of it, but I don't care. When I started this show 2 years ago this month, I did not realize where this show was going. I thought, well, if I get 10,000 listeners, I'll be a happy camper, because it's really about other people. It's really about my guests and the listeners. Well, this morning, and I didn't even run the podcast numbers, this morning I looked at the numbers just for this show, and we are very short of 128,000 listeners just on this show. Now, just let that soak in for a minute. All of y'all, the listeners, my guests who keep coming back, who I keep dragging back by the head of their hair saying, you will appear, and they're going, okay, we will. No, they come back because they love this show, because we have so much fun. But all of y'all, it's your show. Y'all are the ones that make this show great. I'm the facilitator. I just run the board. I just do the interviews. I just bring guests in. Y'all are the ones that make it great. I'm so humbled and so grateful and so appreciative. And Australia, God love you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Y'all are our biggest listeners on this show. Y'all outrank the good old USA. Now, I don't know how that's happened. Don't care how that's happened. I am so grateful for all of you in Australia that listen to this show and share it. Y'all are 98% of my listening base, so thank you so, so much. And it has paid off for one of my sponsors for this show. And she said, Ivana, I don't believe it. She's been on the show, but she also runs an ad on my show, and she's been running this ad now for several months. Her name is Diane Moat, and she has a series of books, and they're called the Sam Holden series. The first one in the series is called Doggone. The second one in the series is called Dogfight. And it goes, wherever a helpless animal whimpers in the dark and wherever the system fails to protect an animal, she'll be there, and she's not giving up anytime soon. So you've been warned. When Sam Holden receives a tip about a brutal dog fighting ring, she embarks on one of her most dangerous acts of vigilantism yet. The monster known as the puppeteer circles Sam's world while she unknowingly circles his. And while they chase each other, will that make Sam put those she loves most in harm's way in order to break up this ring? With time running out and animals in need, the dangerous life Sam's created begins to eclipse any other life she could ever lead. That's Diane Moat on Amazon Kindle, Doggone and Dog Fight. And like I said, she has been on the show as a guest and will return in some future date. Now, there's another gentleman that I've had on the show. His name is John Isaac Jones, and this man is one funny man. And he grew up in rural Alabama. I have been to rural Alabama many, many times. And if you think I'm kidding when I tell you that in some areas of rural Alabama they still don't have indoor plumbing, I'm serious as a heart attack. Been there, seen it, done it. But he grew up in rural Alabama, and he has a selection of short stories on Kindle called Alabama Stories, and they're told through the eyes of a 12-year-old boy. I have read this book, and it is absolutely fascinating. Not only do you get the short stories through the eyes of a 12-year-old boy, but you get to feel the ambiance and the history of Alabama as it was then, and in most places as it still is. It's fun and an entertaining read. Go and get it after the show because we got a great show tonight. Another author that I've had on my show before, her name is J. Traveler Pelton. The woman is amazing. She has a trilogy of books called the Oberlin Trilogy. The first in this trilogy, I can't talk tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is called The Infant Conspiracy. And it goes something like this. In 2018, the Oberlins are a shadow family. The parents, Noel and Violet, along with their children, are very close-knit in more ways than one. They all work in the family firm. Now, the children are supposed to take over the firm after two of the brothers return from their hitch with Uncle Sam, so the parents can retire and, I guess, go to Maui. I don't know. But things kind of go south real fast when a savage virus is turned loose on an unsuspecting public. Join the Oberlins as they set out to make the world a safer place. It's called The Infant Conspiracy by J. Traveler Pelton, the first in the Oberlin Trilogy. I cannot talk tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you. Now, there's two ways you can get on the show. You can get on the show as a sponsor, or you can come on the show as a guest. Either way, you contact me at offthechainradio@yahoo.com, and I'll tell you how to do it. Now, if you want to be a sponsor, I'm not going to charge you an arm and a leg. I'm not even going to charge you a fingernail. For $10 for 30 days, no matter how many shows I have in those 30 days, I will run your ad. If for some reason, as most of you know, my husband is very ill, if I have to reschedule a show because of him, the ad follows the show. So you're going to get 30 days of ad work regardless. If you want to run an ad for another 30 days, you want to change it up, let me know. I'll send you a new bill. You send me a new ad, and we keep moving forward. So why not, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a cause, if you're an author, if you're an artist, if you are a politician, if you have a passion, or if you just want to talk to me for an hour, let me know, because we are booking shows into January. Yes, sir, ladies and gentlemen, we are already in 2019, if you can believe that. The shows from now to the end of the year are simply amazing. I can't wait. So without further ado, our guest tonight is the first time on the show for her. I told her the hour will go by so fast when I say, you're not going to believe this, but our hour's almost up. She's going to go, really? It did go by fast. Trust me, it happens every time. But her name is Katherine McIntyre. And her mantra is strong women, strong words. She is an author. She's an indie author, and she is a feisty Irish chick with a big attitude despite her short stature. And see, I already love this woman because I'm 4'11", I have a Celtic heritage, and I understand strong women, strong words because y'all know me. She writes stories featuring snarky women, ragtag crews, and men with bad attitudes. Sounds like some of the people I've known in my lifetime. High chance for a passionate speech thrown into the mix. As an internal geek and a tomboy who's always stepped to her own beat, she's made her mission to write stories that represent the broad spectrum of people out there from different cultures and races to all varieties of men and women. She is easily distracted by cats and sugar. See why I love her? She is a mini-me here. Perfect. Welcome, Kat, to the show. I am so glad you are with me tonight.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, and I, like I told you before, we have so much fun on this show, it's not even funny. And see, I get to where I can't articulate, and we just laugh and move on. So I want to know about my lady, Katherine McIntyre. I want to know, as a child, as a tomboy, which I can relate to, my mother used to put me in frills and lace, and I would immediately go outside and play in the mud.
It's a familiar story, yeah.
As a wee child, was it always your dream to write, or was this something that you evolved into as you were taking a journey on another path?
It was, I remember being in second grade and telling the teacher I wanted to be a writer when I grew up. I loved reading. I lived at the library. So for me, it was like, that seemed like the coolest profession ever.
How did your second grade teacher take it? Did she look at it like, you've got two heads? Or, yeah, right, okay.
At that point,
20 years.
You tell them you want to be an astronaut, they're like, oh, yeah, go for it. You know what I mean?
But if you tell them you want to be a writer, they go, okay, come see me in 20 years and tell me how it worked out for you. So on your journey to being a writer, I know you probably had to take detours, did you not?
Absolutely.
What kind of detours did you take?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've been writing for as long as I can remember, and I've been working towards it, but my day job is doing massage therapy, which I adore, but it's totally a different path than I thought I'd be going down.
And there's so much fodder for books in that profession.
There really is, because you're talking every session, I've worked on, at this point I've been doing it for 8 years, I've worked on thousands of people, and you're working one-on-one with them, and everyone has, just like every single person's body is unique, they all tell their own stories, and it's such good writing fun.
And would it be fair to say that the physical bodies would it be fair to say that the physical bodies that you work on replenish with scars, because bodies have scars. It's part of life.
Absolutely,
they all tell their own story. They all tell their own story as well.
They do. It's really, really cool. A lot of people have similar issues and stuff like that, but I will remember, certain people maybe based off of a certain tattoo or a birthmark or a scar they have that I remembered, because a lot of times they're face down on the table when I'm working on them, so sometimes the facial recognition's a little spotty, but I will remember working on their body really, really well.
And do you find that when they're, and that is a vulnerable position to be in. And when
Absolutely.
they're in that vulnerable position, because number one, they're trusting someone else to have their back. You're laying face down on a table more times than not.
Definitely.
You're semi-naked, and you're depending on someone else to watch your back, whether the threat is perceived or real. And you have to really trust that person in order to allow them to do something with you.
Yeah, and I mean, I've even noticed, a lot of times with someone, if it's their first time getting a massage, they might be a little more tense starting up, and a lot of times I'll just talk to them to get them to calm down and realize it's a safe space, it's okay, because initially it can be a shocking thing to, try, and then once they realize, oh my God, this feels amazing, then it's all fine.
But it's like it's that fear of being exposed and of not being in control because you're trusting someone else that you don't know from Adam's house cat to watch your back, not to physically or emotionally or mentally hurt you. And if they do, you can't do anything about it because you're literally pinned to a table.
I know. And that's why, the states have been changing the legislature for massage. To watch everyone else's backs, too. But, for example, I live in Pennsylvania, and it used to be you could practice massage with a certification, but now you need a government license and stuff like that. And you really go through so many rigorous rounds of background checks, and it's a good thing. But on top of that, too, we're trained to deal with, because, you might get someone on the table who, I know you write true crime, people have been through a lot of sometimes harrowing experiences, and we are trained in our classes, actually, on how to handle someone with, PTSD or someone who was an assault. But you know what I mean? Like, if someone has a reaction on the table, just because bodies carry a lot of sense. You have muscle memory, and when you've been through a trauma, you carry that with you. And so sometimes, even just working on someone's leg, for example, if they had an injury there or trauma, they might, jerk suddenly or might have some reaction that they didn't know they would have,
Or trying to come up off the table and wring your neck because you've hurt something.
God, I hope not.
That'd be terrifying. But that makes sense for you to be always cognizant of what's going on. And like you said, the body itself, not only the mind, but the body itself has a lot of muscle memory, and the triggers sometimes are worse than the injury, the trauma, or the assault.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've heard of this happening in stuff like yoga, too, but it also happens in massage. Sometimes, again, if you've been through a trauma or things like that, and you're getting worked on, your muscles are releasing, and so sometimes that releases the emotions, too, that you might have pent up and not realize. So, people have started crying and stuff, and that's just something you let them cry it out. And they're going through a thing, and you just let them weather through it.
Would it be safe to say, Kat, that it can also be emotionally, physically, and mentally healing because, like you say, you've allowed them to release that emotion they probably didn't even realize was still there. They thought they'd worked through it all and they were fine, but there was that deep-seated dark place that nobody goes to that still needed to be healed.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things I really love about the job is, the healing element of it.
See, ladies and gentlemen, y'all just learned so many wonderful things on today. That's why we call it off the day.
I know. You thought you were talking about writing.
But and see, I have that same fear is not a strong enough word, aversion.
Yeah.
Because 18 years of abuse, I don't even like being touched.
Oh, absolutely.
So when somebody
That's
says,
really
well, let me
tough to
massage
do
your
that.
shoulders, the first thing I want to do is belt them.
That makes sense. Yeah, because that's your gut reflex, you know?
Yeah.
It's, again, your body holds all that.
Yeah, don't be messing with me. Don't make me feel like you're trapping me, and I can't get
God,
loose
no,
because
yeah.
you're going to see ugly come out. Now,
that absolutely makes sense.
yes, yeah, and I know, and that's been years ago. I mean, we're talking 20, 30 years ago now, but still, it's there, and it's part of my DNA, and it will never go away. And I still have triggers, but I recognize that. Just don't be touching me unless I want you to, and then
absolutely,
I'll hurt you.
Exactly.
Now,
that's a huge
ladies
thing,
and gentlemen,
though. It's
really. Another one of the things I love about this woman is, like me, she is height deprived, not health deprived, height deprived. We are of short stature, but we're really 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Would that be fair?
Exactly. Oh, absolutely.
Now, do you find, being height deprived, that the world in general, and some people in particular, underestimate you, underrate you, and think you're a non-threat?
Absolutely, and then I show them wrong.
Do they
it's
get
so
this
funny
look of,
because I always get that look. Yeah, I mean, again, from doing massage, people come in and see me, and they're like, "You're not going to be able to give me a good massage," and I'm like, "Let's just wait and see on that one." I love being able to prove people wrong. It's great.
Well, it's this the look they give us is one of, yeah, right, you're no threat. I can hold my hand on top of your head and let you air punch at me, and you can't touch me. Yeah, but you got to lay down and go to sleep sometime.
Exactly.
So,
those are the scariest people I know, are small people.
Yes, we are. We are the scariest people. So, ladies and gentlemen, never underestimate anybody that's under 5 feet tall. Because even though we look like munchkins, we're deadly.
Absolutely.
So, when did you dip your writing quill into the muddy waters of indie publishing?
Let's see. My first book came out with a small press in 2012, so I guess it's been 6 years now.
You're still an infant.
And so I started there, and I mean I had been writing forever, and then I started submitting it out, and I had poetry and like some short stories published, but not a full length novel. And then my steampunk book, An Airship Named Desire, got picked up by Hazardous Press, which unfortunately is no longer a press, but that's fine. it's still out there.
Pull it back and
then
put it back out there again.
That's exactly what I did. Yeah, because I've dealt with, that's the tricky part I've seen so far with, I love working with independent presses. I feel like you get a lot of, there's just some great communities, and there's wonderful people to meet, and I love, kind of the camaraderie with the other indie authors and stuff like that. But the only tricky part is I've been through maybe 4 press closures at this point, and I'm like, man.
Oh, my Lord.
I know. I'm starting to think I'm cursed.
No, it's not you. It's them.
It just happens, you know.
What you need
I've been
to
realizing
it's the nature of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, that happens because they pop up like wild onions, and then they find out that it's rather demanding out there, and that it's not all rainbows and unicorns, that you have to weather the storm. And those that can't weather the storm go under. Mm-hmm. And what it does is it hurts indie authors.
Yeah. It's
so
really
the next
tough.
time, the next time your indie press goes under, let me know.
Aw.
Now, why
Yeah.
do you write steampunk?
Oh, let's see. I was always, I've always been kind of geeky. I've gone to Renaissance fairs. I've gone to, different conventions and stuff like that. And so from going to a lot of that stuff, I started seeing steampunk infiltrate into things, and especially like the fashion. People dress like in these really cool Victorian dresses and, with all these gizmos. I mean, I remember going to a convention and seeing someone who had taken like a phonograph player and put in his iPod, like he hooked up his iPod to it, so the music was through that as he carried this backpack along that he constructed. The thing was beautiful. It was so cool. But so then I started getting into steampunk and like checking out the conventions and stuff like that. And there's this whole just really interesting genre out there.
The first book that I read that involves steampunk, I'm thinking, okay, you're going to take the 1800s, which, ladies and gentlemen, steampunk is usually set in the 1800s because that was the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the beginning of the industrial age. That is when things really started moving forward with machinery and versus manual labor and steam-powered trains, planes, and automobiles. So this whole genre of steampunk came up, but they took it to another level.
Yeah, people have really gone crazy with it in a fun way. There's so few rules, and I think that's why a lot of creatives tend to dabble in it, because there's it's so difficult to define that it gives so much room to play with,
That
and so you see
understatement. And I've read some steampunk, and I'm going, where are these people getting this? Because they've taken a very rigid era in history. I mean, one of the most rigid eras in history that I can recall, and
absolutely
made it something that's absolutely insanely fun, off the wall, and anything goes.
Oh, I know. It's so neat. And I think a lot of the original inspiration was the old authors like H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, who had these imaginings. It's the Victorian imaginings of the future, where they didn't really it still had all the trappings of the Victorian era, but with futuristic elements. And I mean, I bucked it with my one book, with my series, the Take to the Sky series. I didn't even set mine in the Victorian era, but there are airships and, all of the Victorian trappings, but in the future.
Why in the world did you do airships? I was reading some of your synopses on some of your books. I'm going, where did she get this?
Airships were fun. Yeah, so that's a big thing in steampunk, and I've always loved pirate stories. And so I thought an airship would be such a fun pirate story to write, because but it's different because it's not in the seas, it's in the sky, So the whole series is just a lot of pirate swashbuckling adventures.
On the air.
In the air, yeah, exactly.
The woman loves to live dangerously. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Off the Chain. I'm your host, Yvonne Mason, with my guest, author Katherine McIntyre. And y'all have heard me call her Kat because I think that is such a beautiful name, and I can just see her in my mind's eye. She's a cat, trust me. We will be right back. We are going to run a couple of more ads, and then I've got a couple of announcements that I want to break the news on, and then we will get right back with our guests. So if you will, bear with us.
Do you have cougars on your porch swing? Our horse is your new best friend. Do your nicest shoes get buried knee-deep in snow as your toes turn blue? Are you bothered by wolves at your woodpile? No, not that kind of wolf. Join wildlife artist and author Nancy Quinn and her family as they discover an exciting new life in Go West, Young Woman, a true Montana adventure. Available online and in bookstores. Or visit QuinnWildlifeArt.com for a personalized signed copy. Critics agree, it's a hoot.
A struggling city, its beloved baseball team, an antique camera, and photos from that camera that bear an image from the pit of hell, an entity only a select few can see. Journalism professor Buddy Cullen is determined to track this demon down. But who is the hunter and who is the prey? And who will be the next target of mankind's mortal foe? Mortal Foe, available at Amazon.com.
Hi, this is Winona
and Jade inviting you to join us
and our wonderful guests on the And I Thought Women's Cave podcast
on Blog Talk Radio to learn more about our books, the And I Thought series, and
the Misfit Guides. They're available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNobles.com.
Or just to see what your ladies are up to, you can find all of that out on www.andwethought.com.
So peace and love from Winona
and Jade and our books.
Girl,
You're so
silly.
You silly.
Remember,
did you write that? That's funny.
Remember to visit us at andwethought.com.
The book Ruined Days is at Amazon. Is it true? Travis's dad ruined America's Day on November 22nd, 1963. Travis is still feeling the repercussions. He sets out from Kansas to ruin some days himself. Why? He's really, really pissed. When the same people who killed JFK kills his aunt and the new girlfriend, they become the hunted. Amazon by Gannat Wise. Ruined Day.
The year, 1888. The place, London's East End. Dead and mutilated bodies are popping up all over, from Stamford to Whitechapel. Jack the Ripper is leaving his mark, and the city's on edge. Yvonne Mason is back with a tale of murder and millinery. The Rhodes Hat Factory is booming while the body count rises. Why now? How are these hats connected? Has the Hatter gone mad? Mad Hatter from Yvonne Mason. Available now on Amazon.com.
And we are back. This is Yvonne Mason with my guest, Katherine McIntyre, who is an author. This is Off the Chain. And that book, The Mad Hatter, is going into audio production, ladies and gentlemen, and it is being read by a native Londoner. And when you hear that book, you will just flip completely out. So watch for that. Also, y'all remember the gentleman I had on my show named Colin Martin. He is with the Satanic Player Society. They do short stories, horror stories online on their online show, the Satanic Player Society. Well, they have taken my short story, Blood Alley, and they will be performing that. That is so exciting. Also, as a teaser, starting the first Wednesday in January, once a month, we will add a new wrinkle to the show, and it is with author Nancy Quinn, who I've interviewed a couple of times. She lives in Montana. And we are going to do a segment of the show called News from the Mountain. She will be running that show. I will be there as a co-host, but she is going to entertain us with News from the Mountain. That's author Nancy Quinn, starting in January, the first Wednesday in January, News from the Mountain. It should be fabulous. Now, back to our guest, author Katherine McIntyre, who, like me, is height-deprived, but that doesn't stop us from being 10 feet tall and bulletproof. She's a tomboy, which I absolutely adore. She writes steampunk, but she marches to her own band. I mean, just not her own beat. This woman is like me. She just creates her own band and marches to it. How much of a detriment was that to you growing up?
Kind of going my own way. It was tough.
Yes.
I mean, that's actually one of the reasons I got so into writing, because I was super shy as a kid and had massive social anxiety. And so when I was little, I didn't have a lot. I had my cousin. Like, I always had my cousins were my best friends. And then I had a couple friends in school, but I mean, books were my first and like nearest and dearest friends, you know? The characters in books, I always reached out for that.
Did you find that books gave you comfort when people couldn't?
Absolutely. Yeah, I always loved, I feel like books just really teach people empathy from an early age. They teach people how to relate, you know? And there were just so many amazing lessons and amazing things that stuck with me from everything I've read.
Did you read with an open mind?
Yeah, usually. I read a lot of different stuff. I mean, when I was a kid, too, it was fiction, nonfiction. It was anything I could get my hands on. I had giant duffel bags I would bring to the library, load them up, and then every 2 weeks rotate it around.
What books did you like to read the most?
I used to read, it's what I now call fantasy blob monster books. I read those like really, really long, in-depth fantasy books that I feel like nowadays I just don't have the attention span for. I look at it then and I'm like, how did I read that? But it would be like those 1,000-page like fantasy tomes. But I mean, really, it was. I remember, just blowing through. It would be anything young adult. I just got my hands on and read.
The reason I ask is because somewhere in the recesses of your mind, those books had to come out in what you write now, because you write steampunk, but it's a fantasy type steampunk. It's a world within a world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even probably what I predominantly have been writing as of late, which is something I never read growing up, funny enough, is romance. But even the romance I write tends to be paranormal romance where there's fantasy elements in it. So, yeah, it all works its way.
See, ladies, we are the product of our environment, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me. I read things like In Cold Blood and Helter Skelter, so no wonder I write true crime.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I read In Cold Blood in 7th grade, and the teacher thought I was nuts.
Oh my gosh,
but,
that's amazing. That's awesome.
But I didn't read romance because it bored me, because you always knew how it was going to end. And that was when Harlequin was really big. My grandmother read Harlequin. My mother read. There was Harlequin books all over the house, and I'm looking at them and go, okay, just give me something bloody. This doesn't even interest me.
See, that's why I combine my romance with a lot of fighting. There's because I do a lot of paranormal romance, so you get the action in there too, because it's werewolves. It's big battles against monsters and stuff like that. I think those elements are just so much fun. I wouldn't be able to just do plain old either.
Yeah, you would be so bored with just plain old romance. You've got to have a depth within your books. I can just about, without reading any of your books yet, I can just about guarantee you that the reader has no idea how it's going to turn out until they get towards the end.
I like to keep people on their toes. It's fun that way.
And that brings me, ladies and gentlemen, to an anthology that Kat did that I downloaded today and started reading it, and it's called Corsets and Cops. Now, when I saw the title, I'm going, okay, corsets and cops. Cops I understand. Corsets not so much. But okay, let's see what is between the pages, because the title, the book cover's phenomenal, but the title
just stunning, Margaret. Yeah,
just blew me out of the water. But the title
the woman
itself,
who organized it, Oh, yeah?
I had to buy it, but the woman that organized it, go ahead.
Yeah, the woman who organized it, Margot Bond Collins, she set up the whole thing, and like the cover she got was stunning, and like the anthology did so well that we're doing a Christmas one called Bustles and Bells.
Oh my
So it's
word.
going to be all Christmas steampunk stories, and I just saw the cover for that, and it's all so gorgeous. I'm so excited to be a part of it.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first anthology that Kat's done, but I got through the first story and halfway through the second story, and as I'm sitting here reading the story, I'm wondering where in the hell is this going to wind up? And it was nothing like I thought it was going to be. It was interesting because the writer of this first story took steampunk to a level it's never been before.
Yeah, it's really neat because steampunk is such it's such a variable thing that you could do steampunk fantasy, you could do steampunk thriller, you could, you can incorporate it in so many ways that it's just really unique like that.
It reminds me of the movie that Johnny Depp was in, and the book. There was a book called the same thing, and it was the Barber of Seville.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up.
I think that's the title of the book. Anyway, he's a barber, but he's a serial killer, and it's set in the
I know, it's Sweeney Todd, right?
Sweeney Todd, yes, Sweeney Todd.
Yes.
That's what steampunk reminds me of.
I could totally see that. There are definitely some elements there, yeah.
Yes, there are. Now, you also have written Gaslights and Graves.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that, because that title intrigued me on more than one level. I want to talk about Gaslights and Graves. Tell me about it.
So that anthology, I remember seeing the call for it last year, and I really wanted to be a part of it because it was the whole concept was doing steampunk stories, but with a paranormal twist. So you had to incorporate, which is two things I do. I love writing paranormal, and I love writing steampunk. So I ended up doing a steampunk romance story in it, and the paranormal twist is I incorporated magic in form of technomancers. So the story itself is called Of Tinkers and Technomancers, and the woman who's the technomancer can control like all that cog-like machinery. So she's able to make it move on her own.
Oh yeah, I'll be getting that book. I'll be getting that after we get off the show tonight. Now, I just tried to bring up something, but it wouldn't let me. Your poetry.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Sure.
What made you write poetry?
So poetry was actually one of the early forms that I loved expressing myself in. When I was, I actually went to college. I have my BA in literature. And I loved taking the poetry classes. We did a lot of studies into British and just different British poetry, British Irish poetry, stuff like that. And it was really fascinating to break down everything. I love how concise it is. You know, you have to communicate so much in such a short space, and I think that's a really cool thing.
I just brought one up. If you don't mind my reading it, I'm sitting here just drooling. It's so poish. It's so with a twist. Ladies and gentlemen, this is called Envy the Beast by author Katherine McIntyre. All-consuming, overwhelming, its whimsical green tendrils, carving bags under my eyes and furrowing my brow. Vines threatening to choke, they cast a spell upon my senses until drowning in a plethora of futility, sludge-like steps. I am entangled more than ever down this path of putrid entropy. I hope I said that right. Stumbling as I perceive hazy thoughts that bring much agony. My syrupy cough contaminated like bile in my throat. I choked to see what I imagined, vile tragedy, my mouth offended. The vines descend in endless spirals, carrying their circular disease. My fingers grasp upon some logic and small sentimentality. Within my grasp is truth and honesty. As my clinging vines snap, a thought of loyalty between us. That is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Envy the Beast.
Yeah, it was based on such a simple concept too. I just wanted to communicate jealousy and that feeling.
Well, I think you did, honey, in a very succinct way. Here we go. Now, this is her steampunk. Ladies and gentlemen, this woman just fascinates me. I have to buy her poetry book, Electric Dreams. Her limbs are well-oiled, slick with chrome plates, and a motor that hums like a diesel truck. Hunched over, the ticking noise is a heart like clockwork, beating 60 beats per minute. The legs splayed out like two monkey bars, metal ball heels pressing against the concrete. She hears the tick, small iron digits pressed against her knees, tapping 60 beats per minute. Her marble eyes fog and her breaths are tiny vapors, puffed into the air like filtered cigarette smoke. The chrome heartbeat, a polished, the syncopation slows no longer, 60 beats per minute. And eyes, like polished agate, retreat into electronic dreams, the power button flashing, neon blue. Oh, my flippin' word. Child, that is amazing.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Wow, I can see that entire picture in my mind. Where did that one come from?
That one was really kind of stemmed from being so connected to technology. And, being able to separate yourself from it.
You think? I mean, that just, I can see the form, whether male or female, robot, if you will, steampunk, if you will, and it's moving and it feels like it's alive, and then somebody flips a switch and it's just a chunk of metal.
Just kind of putters off. Yeah, exactly.
Like some of the people I know, and some people's lives that I know. Now, her books. Can you get your poetry books on Amazon?
Actually, no. A lot of my poetry was just in individual magazines over the years and stuff like that. I have some of it on my website, but that's a good idea. Maybe I should start pursuing that.
Oh, you're so evil. I would have downloaded everything you had. I love poetry. Poetry is...
Me too.
Well, because, you know why? Because poetry can be a song set to music.
Absolutely.
That's all a song
I
is.
really love... Mhm.
You really
love the
what?
flow of poetry. Yeah, I love the flow of poetry. It's so similar. There is a music to it. There's a rhythm. There's a pulse.
Exactly. And you bring it to life. Reading it to yourself is one thing, but when it's read out loud, there's something about it that creates a vision that you might not see just reading it silently to yourself.
Oh, yeah, I know. I love listening to poetry spoken out loud. It's so cool.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Now, in our few remaining minutes, tell me about your books, because people I know are going to want to go get them. So the Tribal Spirit series, what is that about?
So that is a shifter series set in Central PA. It is a lot of pack politics. So it's the first book opens up with kind of like the cat versus dog thing, because it's a wolf pack and a mountain lion pack, and the wolf pack is run by a female alpha, and she is super ferocious, and the guy who comes in is the head of the mountain lion pack, and he's a pain in the ass. And so that's a recipe for a romance, right?
Or civil war, depending on how you want to look at it.
Absolutely. It's a mixture of both. And so that series is really fun. I'm actually working on the third, but that's with a new publisher now, because my old publisher, Lucid, had closed this past May. But so both Tribal Spirits books 1 and 2 are going to be, book 1 will be republished, and then book 2 will be out brand new, beginning of 2019. So I'm really excited for that. It's going to be out with Totally Bound Publishing.
Well done. Then you've got the Philadelphia Coven Chronicles. Say that fast 3 times.
Yes, I know, right? I really like setting stuff kind of locally. But, yeah, the Philly Coven Chronicles, I love that series. It was a really fun one to write because I live in the suburbs of Philly. And so I got to go into Philly and kind of explore and find, what areas might be cool for some monsters to pop out of. And it's got witches and fae, so like all sorts of mythical fairy creatures. Really kind of gruesome. That one's, it's all romances, but I combine gritty and gruesome with romance, so.
and men with bad attitudes, right. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's of Tinkers and Techromancers?
So that's the book that's in Gaslights and Graves currently. That one was just really, really fun. And there is, so speaking of, automaton type of things and like those robots, that one features clockwork dolls, which is a very similar concept. They, except they run off of, they're, on that intricate cog machinery. They, so the Tinkers make them.
Ladies and gentlemen, this woman's amazing. Then she did the airship series, an airship named Desire. A Tale of Two Airships, and I was reading a little bit, I can't remember if it was an airship named Desire, A Tale of Two Airships, where your main character goes and steals back something that she's stolen, and it got stolen from her.
So the first airship book is kind of like if you mixed Treasure Island with steampunk. And so it's there are adventure stories at the heart of it, except set in the sky, because they're ships. And so I'm excited because I'm finally wrapping up that series. That was my first book ever published. And so, 6 years later, I'm wrapping up with the third book is coming. The third and final book in the series coming out this August. So I'm very excited about that.
You say that, and then you're going to say, well, and when I bring you back, you're going to say, that series that I thought I wrapped up, well, I took and spun off one of the characters because they were screaming in my ear.
Oh, that happens all the time. I totally
Yes, I know. All
They're
the time.
So noisy.
And they fight for attention like little children.
They really do. It's crazy.
Aggravating. You just can't shut them. And then if you tell them to go away, they say, okay, watch this, and then they go away, and it takes forever to get them back when you want them because they want to come out and play when they want to come out and play.
Oh, my God, absolutely.
So you're finishing up that book, so what is next on your agenda besides the third and the other series?
The Tribal Spirits? Yeah, so
yes.
I'm currently writing that one, and then the other series that just started this year with Evernight Publishing was the Discord's Desire series, which is paranormal romance. It's Fae meet rock stars, so it's got incubus and satyrs and all sorts of, different, like a siren, and they form a rock band. And it's a lot of adventures in that. that universe.
So you get seduced, you get murdered, and you get who knows what all in one night.
Exactly. It's super fun.
Oh, my word. Well, you're not going to believe this, my darling girl, but we are almost to the end of our hour.
Oh, my gosh, it did go fast.
See? It never didn't I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, she was going to say that? So in the time that we have left, tell the folks where you can be found and where your books can be found.
Sure. So all my books can be found on Amazon and a fair amount of other retailers. And then, my website is www.katherine-mcintyre.com. And I'm also on Goodreads and Facebook, so feel free to hit me up.
Now, don't hang up when the show goes dark because I have some instructions for you, but
sure.
Will you come back?
Absolutely. This was fun.
See? We make it fun around here because we didn't even get to one of the things I wanted to talk about, which was another. We're not going to spill the beans, folks. You've got to listen in. It's another avenue that she writes in that just blows my mind. But we will discuss that when I bring her back. So y'all going to have to tune in and pay attention. But I do want to thank you for taking the time and spending an hour with me and having fun with me because that's what this show is all about. And thank you for agreeing to come back because you will become a regular on the show. You will get a following on this show.
Aww. Well, thank you so much for having me. I had a total blast. It was really fun.
I am so glad. See, ladies and gentlemen, this was her first time on any show, and she was a wee bit, just a wee bit on the nervous side. But, we solved that in no time. Ain't nothing but a thing on this show. But as with all of the shows, I want to thank her because it takes a lot of courage to come on this show, even though I only eat small children on a weekly basis, not a daily basis. I have yet to meet any of my guests, but we could. It depends on the time of day. But I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. And join us again tomorrow night when we will once again be here on Off the Chain at 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. And as with all things that I say at the end of the show, people will forget who you are. They'll forget your name. They'll forget what you look like. They'll forget what you're wearing. But they will never, ever, ever forget the way you make them feel. And it is my wish, my prayer, my desire that each one of you, guest and listener alike, understand that you are the most important person in the room. When you turn into the live show and you listen, when you tune into the archives and listen, you are the most important person in the room. Without you, there would be no show. Sure, I could get on here and I could talk all day long and just rattle on and on, but y'all are the ones that make the show. So y'all, I hope, feel and understand that you are the most important person in the room. Also, understand this. If you want to achieve greatness, whether it's dog catcher, garbage man, astronaut, rocket scientist, whatever in between that you want to be, if you want to achieve greatness, don't ask permission. Because when you do, nobody's going to give it to you. In fact, they're probably going to look at you like you've got two heads and go, you want to do what? And as my guest the other night said, here, hold my beer and watch this. Just go out and do it. Be great. Be great within your mind. Be great within yourself. Because when you understand that you are great and you are enough the way you are, the rest of the world doesn't matter. What they think doesn't matter. Because you are enough. So go out and achieve great things. And I don't mean go out and write the next great novel. I mean go out and achieve great things within your life. Things that enhance your happiness. Things that you prove to yourself that you are enough, because you are enough. So with that being said, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here and listening, both the live show and the archives. I want to thank Kat for agreeing to be on the show. I'm going to send her some dates so that she will come on again and gain a following. And know that tomorrow night we will be back, as well as Friday night and Saturday night. We will be here all 4 nights, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. And love yourself. Love each other like yourself. And know that here on Off the Chain, anything goes. It doesn't matter, because we like to have fun. We like to be entertaining. And so we will see you all again tomorrow night here on Off the Chain. I am your host, Yvonne Mason. We will be here at 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. And with that, my guest, author Katherine McIntyre, and I wish you a wonderful good evening. See, my tongue just gets twisted. I can't talk with a flip. But what I wanted to tell you, Kat, is we're off the air now.
Yeah.
Is when I hang up here, the show will go into archive. Once it goes into archives, I'm going to post the link on my page, and I'm going to tag you in it.
Okay, perfect.
And you take it and run with it. Post it everywhere on your social media.
Perfect. I will be happy to, definitely.
Oh, it gets better. Tomorrow, it will go up on Spreaker, on SoundCloud, on Mixcloud, on Podcast.com, on Podcast Garden, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, FM.com, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Reverb Nation.
That's awesome.
That's why we're heard in over 200 countries around the world.
That's so cool.
So I will send you the links, and I'll put them up on my page, and I will also tag you in those. We are up to, on Reverb Nation, we're up to 3,000 fans on that site alone.
That's amazing.
We are
How long
up
have
to
you been doing this for?
2 years this month.
Oh my God, that's wonderful.
But it's all y'all's fault, because y'all have kept the show going. And I was down for like 2 months because I almost lost my husband, so I didn't run a show for 2 months.
Terrifying. Yeah.
But the show kept growing. I couldn't believe it.
That's
the support
amazing.
It is. I thank God every day. So,
yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Join me on Reverb Nation.
Definitely.
Join me on YouTube, and you can also let's see, where else is it? iHeartRadio. You can also join that one. I'll just send you all the links, and you just join up.
That sounds perfect. Definitely.
And then take all those podcasts and spread them around.
Absolutely.
And have your social network spread them around, because this is how you get known. This is how Diane Moat became #1 in Australia, was this show.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool.
So with that, my darling, I'm going to let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll send you some dates for next year. You want to come on in January?
That'd be perfect. Absolutely.
Okay. You should have a couple and see, we didn't even get to talk about the fairy tale writings.
That's true. I know. I had so much fun. Thank you so much for making it so easy to do.
You are quite welcome. See, there was no reason to be nervous at all. It was just two friends having a conversation.
It was a lot less stressful than I thought it was going to be. It was great.
People overthink this stuff.
I do. I really do.
Just overthink it.
Absolutely.
No reason to overthink it. It's just fun.
It really was.
Well, and because I'm so flawed, when I screw up, I just laugh at myself. What are you going to do?
Though. That's such a nice, it's comforting, though. I think it makes it a lot easier for people to go along with it, you know?
Yeah, well, because none of us are perfect, and when I get tired, I can't help with a damn.
I'm not.
And it makes the listeners at ease, too, because
absolutely.
They understand none of us are perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I'm going to say good evening. I'm going to go check on my husband, and I will send you dates.
Yeah.
I will send you the link, and thank you
That
so much.
sounds perfect. Thank you for having me, and I hope you have a wonderful night.
You too, baby. Talk to you later.
Thank you. I'll talk to you. Bye.
Bye-bye.